Hi, Phoenixes. Today I'm coming with a pretty serious topic and one that hits very close to the heart, which is dealing with false accusations. So, this is actually in response to someone who came to me with a question, and I just didn't feel that it was going to be complete enough in written response because of the energetics of this situation, because of the emotional charge of this situation. Also, I know that there are several of you out there who are dealing with these kinds of high conflict situations. So I want to talk about what to do when you are dealing with false accusations, especially ones that are threatening to your life and your livelihood. So, the situation here with the question that was asked was basically false legal accusations that were being charged. And so I'm going to take that and tell you a couple stories of my own. Um, so when I was divorcing, I wanted to do things amicably. I wanted to stay friends and do peaceful co-parenting. And in my desire to do that, I wanted to keep, well, first of all, I wanted to, stay out of court proceedings as much as possible. But second, I wanted to keep the, um, the court dossiers and the files as minimal as possible. And then I was very shocked and surprised when my ex-husband had not only listed close to 30 pages of lies and accusations about me in there, but also gotten some family members of his to back up these accusations with testimonies attesting to that I was mentally unstable, that I was psychopathic, that I was trying to sexualize my children, that I had been prostituting myself, that I was traveling all over the world, opening bank accounts all over the world, hiding money, you name it. Forms of financial abuse, forms of physical abuse, emotional abuse. I was being accused of nearly the totality of it. And, my sense of justice was very injured. And my sense of ego was very injured at that point because I had tried so hard to be the good girl. I was trying to be the perfect mother. I was trying to be the perfect wife. I was, taking care of people and volunteering and taking part in my church and, really trying to be very, how do you say, almost religiously above reproach, and quite frankly, naive. I was naive. So being being taken from my self-image, the way that I wanted to be, who I wanted to be and how I wanted to appear to others, as this kind of lily white, the person who did it all right, the person that everybody liked, to being painted as this devil woman, this crazy abusive woman, um, was for me too big of a shock. I couldn't digest it. I couldn't handle it. It was an affront to who I considered myself to be. So then, of course, this inner death ensued, and this was part of my Phoenix rising. This was part of what enabled me to become who I am today, because it forced me to die a death of sorts. It forced me to die a small death of the ego, which means that I had, of course, his family members that completely rejected me. I had horrified looks from, people in the court. Even my own attorney was looking at me and questioning me. Well, did you actually do this? Well, did you actually do that? Well, you did. So I found myself in a position of defense and having to defend myself against, like hundreds of accusations that were absolutely unfathomable to me. And having been put in that position, I had to allow my ego to die. I had to allow myself to die in that sense because I didn't have a choice. Whatever these people thought about me in this new country that I had landed in, where I didn't have much support, where I didn't have friends, and the friends that I did have were so shocked and horrified by what was going on that they couldn't handle, and many of them took their distance. Even my family members, my own family members, couldn't handle the stress and the drama of what was going on. And so even they were, taken aback and were taking their distance a bit. So there was nobody, I want to say, in the trenches with me, nobody that got me. I mean, I did find support here and there from individual people that would step in and back me up, but there was no one that was really in it with me. I was alone, and I was alone defending my honor and defending my identity. I was seeking justice. I was seeking truth. I needed for people to know the truth. I needed for people to know that I was a good person, that I hadn't done these things, that these accusations were false. I needed that to happen. Well, guess what? As you can imagine, it didn't happen. Why? Because, first of all, most people are not so concerned with your life that, they actually care whether you did it or not, or what happened with who. They don't want to get into this back and forth thing. It's not their circus, it's not their monkeys. And they're trying to live an enjoyable life. Many people run from drama, right? They don't want anything to do with it. It's too much, it's too messy, it's too, it's too far removed from what they want to be doing. So first of all, expecting anybody else to jump into my circus was not realistic, no matter how much I needed people to believe that I was a good person. And for my attorneys, I was especially disappointed with them even questioning me on these things. But as they were thinking, well, it's my job to know, and I don't know this person from before. And, so here's where I went wrong with the legal system. Their job is to enforce a business contract. Marriage is a business contract. It's not an emotional contract. It is not a love contract. Marriage is a business contract. The legal professionals, the judges, the attorneys, anybody in that system, they are there to enforce the business dealings of this contract, which mean what are your assets, what are the terms of those assets, and how to deal with the human assets, aka the children, right? So they're not dealing in any kind of emotional damage. They're not dealing in any kind of truth. And I want to be very clear with that. They are not dealing with truth, and they will not solve truth for you. They're not dealing with justice in those terms. What they are dealing with is the enforcement with their legal guidelines of the legal contract. That is worlds apart from justice and truth. That is worlds apart from vindication, equality, fairness, and healing. So who you are will never be touched by the justice system. It will never be validated by the justice system. Who you are is an entity completely apart from this extremely antiquated, by the way, justice system. Now, within the justice system, there are the police. So it happened one time that I went to try to file a police report because my ex-husband had come to the house, very threatening, unannounced, was banging on my door, demanding to come into my home and search the house. Under the pretext that, he had lost, that I had stolen one of the children's coats, which I don't know what I would be doing wearing the children's coats. However, he wanted to come in and he wanted to search my house, and he was physically forcing, trying to push himself into the house and being verbally extremely aggressive, saying, "You'd better let me in, you'd better this and that." So I felt that my rights had been violated. I felt in physical danger. So I had warned him to get off the property, and I was going to file a police report. At which time he backed down, and then subsequently my children told me that the coat had been in the trunk of the car. However, I went to the police station. When I went there, they said, most of the calls that we get, most of the cases that we get are about domestic violence. And most of them go nowhere. In fact, 90% of the cases that we hear about go absolutely nowhere. Why? Because number one, they're so common. Number two, people rarely ever file the charges, the actual charges, to be able to go to court. And even if you go to court, number three, you need irrefutable proof that the abuse has happened, meaning that you need it videotaped, or you need multiple witnesses, not just one witness, but multiple witnesses to be there. And then you need additional physical evidence, right? If you can get it. So I would have had to be bruised. I would have had to get a doctor's report, all of those things. But if somebody comes to your house unannounced, makes threats to you and leave, you don't have any of those things. Obviously, you haven't, you didn't realize that you were supposed to be recording. You didn't realize that you had to have multiple witnesses at your house to witness the thing, and, etc. So anyways, all that to say, again, the police's job is to take the law, find out what is criminal, and prove with irrefutable proof. And here in France, unfortunately, that means usually paper documents, which, in these cases are absolutely ludicrous to find, but they need paper documents, irrefutable proof that the law had been broken. Beyond that, it is not their problem. It is not their job. Whatever's happening emotionally, whatever is happening in your perspective of what happened, even if it happens recurrently, that is not their problem. So I say all that to say this. Understand what power other people have. Understand what power the police and the justice system have, which is very small in the scope of things. Understand what power you have and what other people have as far as friends are concerned. So no one, and I mean this extremely strongly, I can't state this strongly enough, no one will decide your worth except for you. No one gets to decide if you're a good person or not except for you. It doesn't matter if people believe your truth or if they don't believe your truth. It will change nothing for you, because what matters is that you know your truth, your perspective, your heart, your intentions, your actions. You know that. Having someone else validate that for you is showing you, it's a sign showing you where you need to have your ego death. Why? Because when your ego is still alive, when you have this sense of identity that needs to be confirmed, needs to be validated, needs to be made right, needs to be made true, needs to be made good, that is, I don't know how else to say it other than a false sense of self. It is a making yourself small. Why? Because you're trying to fit into this personality, this persona, this thing that needs to be seen, viewed, and judged, when you are actually so much bigger than that. The breadth of who you are, the soul of who you are, the divine essence of who you are, the timelessness of who you are, the colors of the rainbow of who you are could never, ever fit into that tiny persona that needs to be viewed and judged and made correct. So when you allow that small persona to die, and it really, really helps when you've had multiple false accusations made against you, when you've had your persona tarnished, trampled, stamped on, killed multiple times so badly, deader than dead, it helps a lot. It helps a lot because then you get to release the bigger part of who you are. You get that opportunity to stop trying to fit into this tiny little person, and you get to be expansive into who you really are, the you that could never be touched by someone else's opinion, that could never be touched by a judge's decision on you. And I really literally mean this. Let's say very, very worst case scenario. The police, the judges, everybody believes the false accusations against you. You get sent to prison for 1.5 years.